the way into the house swap, and I'm realizing I don't know what the story is going to be about. I understand the setup of what's going on, but I'm like, okay, so what is going to be the thriller aspect of this? Because so far, I don't know what that is. The concept is that there are these two different families. One family lives in London. It's a husband and a wife, and the other family lives in France in this old chateau that they're renovating, and it's a husband and a wife, and then their son, who is around like 18-ish years old. They decide to do a house swap, so they're staying in each other's houses. But when the one family gets to the family in France, the people are actually there and they're not supposed to be, so they do meet them for just like a brief amount of time and then they end up leaving. So they're staying in each other's house, a la The Holiday. And you get multiple perspectives so far. It's the wife from one couple and the husband from the other couple are the perspectives that you're getting. So you're only seeing one half of each marriage and it's alternating those POVs. And so far they've just been staying at each other's houses. The circumstances are not exactly what they thought they'd be in some cases, but I'm like, what's the is someone gonna die? Is someone gonna go missing? Is something gonna happen? 26%, I don't know what that's gonna be. Hopefully I find out soon. I could obviously just read the synopsis and find out, but I'm kind of having fun just letting myself explore the story. And I'm honestly liking it quite a bit. I think the writing's really atmospheric and it feels like a good summer read because it feels like it's like the summer vacation. And obviously it is now fall, but I do live in Florida and it still does kind of feel like summer. So that's working for me. And it just has a really easy writing style. It's very easy to get into. So I'm just curious to see where it's gonna go, but I'd say like first impressions are good. But I am like, ooh, is this gonna be a slow burn? Is anything interesting gonna happen? We shall see. Okay, quick update on the house swap before I go to bed because I'm gonna read more and I just reached the 46% mark, so I feel like I'm gonna get kind of far in the story and I wanted to update you before I read too much more. We're about at the halfway mark and I still don't know what this book is about. I'm so tempted to look at the synopsis, but I'm also like, I don't know, I made it this far, like I might as well just keep going because I'm not gonna like stop reading it, but I am just kind of curious what it's doing. There are like weird things being laid out. But it's so unclear what the overarching like plot is supposed to be because with one family, the house had a break-in before they come to do the house swap, but they didn't know that. And then like weird things start happening and it seems like there might be another break-in while they're there. And there's all these stories about the place potentially being haunted. And I'm like, what's happening with that storyline? And then the other storyline, the husband's kind of like learning some things about his wife that's making him question their whole relationship. And I'm like, are these families gonna end up like, they do have a mutual friend? Like, is it gonna be that they're connected in some way? Like, what is the point? It's just so unclear because with a book like this, that's a thriller, it's usually like house swap and then someone dies, house swap and then someone goes missing, house swap and then major secret is revealed. I just don't know what that second part of the sentence is supposed to be for what this is about. But I'm not hating it. I'm just like, where are we going? We'll see how I feel in the morning. I have finished the house swap and unfortunately didn't love the way that it went. I'm glad I didn't look at the synopsis before because once I finished the book, I did look at the synopsis and I was like, thank God I didn't read this because I would have been waiting the whole book for those things to happen because it takes so long to get going. And the book really doesn't even have a clear premise or like, it doesn't feel like it has a real direction of where it wants to go. It feels kind of like something that could be an 8-episode limited series on Netflix that's just kind of like a summer drama. But having this be presented to me thinking I was getting into a thriller, it was so slow and it just felt so meandering. It felt like it just started and then was kind of like, oh, let's see where the story goes. Ultimately, it's just a book about these two families who do a house swap, and then as they are doing that, it just like increases the tension and things that they already have going on in their lives, sort of. There's not really like a moving plot under the story. It's just like boiling a frog and the temperature just keeps raising and things keep coming out and there's like a reveal, but I don't know, I just ended up being disappointed with it. So I'm gonna give that book a 2-star, which is a bummer because I always like, you know, finding a new author to enjoy, but this one was not it for me and I'm not overly inclined to go read another book from them at this time, but potentially I would in the future because I liked the setup of the story and the writing and the atmosphere. Like it felt like a good summer book. It felt like something that could be fun, but ultimately just didn't pack the punch that I wanted it to. And I have gone ahead and already started the other book I'm gonna be reading, so I can let you know my first impressions of that.
Yeah.
So I'm 25% 30% of the way into Deadbeat by Adam Hamdy. Now, I have really enjoyed the book Other Side of Night by Adam Hamdy. That was a 5-star for me. I thought that book was fantastic, complex, intriguing, such a page turner, just so good. So I do kind of have some high expectations going into this book because I have loved a book from this author before, and so far I've been a little like, oh gosh, what is this going to be? The writing style of this one feels significantly different. The setup just feels, I don't know, strange. But the concept of this book, I also didn't really read the synopsis for this one, or haven't read it in a while, so I don't really remember what it's going to be. But the first 25%, what you are getting set up to you is the characters like breaking the fourth wall with you a little bit in the beginning and saying, you know, I've done these bad things, I've killed people, but there's a reason why, and all the bad things they say about me in the newspapers aren't necessarily the true story, so I'm going to be telling you the true story. And then he's going through what happened, and he describes himself as a deadbeat. He is just this deadbeat dude. He was in the military at one point, and then he ended up doing something happened that's still not super clear, and he was in prison, I think, for a bit, and then he's got out, but now he does something else bad. It looks like he might go back to prison for a long time. He has an ex-wife and a daughter that he's trying to support, and everyone in his life just kind of looks at him as this deadbeat. He even looks at himself as a deadbeat. He's just kind of a mess. He has no money and no job, and yeah, just like drinks a lot and is just a mess. And then he gets presented this opportunity anonymously from some stranger. Someone bails him out of jail and says that they will offer him a huge sum of money if he will go kill this guy who's like this club owner. And so I guess he's gonna pursue that and go do that. But that's what the setup of the story has been so far. It's like this guy with no prospects in life is presented this option to kill this person for all this money, a person he doesn't even know. And it's kind of like a what would you do situation. This character, reading from the perspective, is not the most fun. They're not my favorite character, and you're just so with them in their head. But so far there's really short chapters, and it's like getting into the action part of it now, so I'm intrigued to see where it goes. It did feel like a lot of the beginning was just trying to make you believe that this guy truly had no other options, so that you would believe that he would reasonably accept this deal to go kill some stranger to take this money. And I believe it, because we were shown every horrible aspect of his life. I fully understand why he's making that choice. I'm just ready for some action to start happening now, and then to see where the story is going to tailspin from there. So overall, first impressions are okay. I'm interested with the story, just not so much the character and the writing style as much. So maybe if the story picks up more, I'll start to enjoy it a bit more. I am going to DNF Deadbeat. I got about 45% in, and first of all, I think the word deadbeat was used 45 times in the first 45%. That was just so much. But the whole book was just feeling so gritty, and I don't love gritty books, and I don't know. I mean, it's just like crime, drugs, alcoholism, a deadbeat dude. I'm just not getting into it, and it's very disappointing, and it feels like an entirely different author. But I guess Adam Hamdy has actually written a lot of other books before, which I didn't realize, and maybe The Other Side of Night was more of an anomaly, and that was him trying something different, and this is more his usual stuff. I don't know. All I know is that I don't like this. And right now, I don't want to read something I don't like. I want to read something fun. I want to read thrillers because I'm looking for like something that really captures my attention, gets me really entranced in a book, a little bit of escapism, just something that's a good time. And this is not going to be that for me. So I was planning on only doing 2 books in this video, but at this point I'm like, I've got to read something else. And I do have another thriller arc on my NetGalley shelf. It actually doesn't come out until February or March of 2025, and I usually like to try to wait to read my arcs until they're closer to the publication date, but I want something fun, and this sounds fun, so I'm gonna jump into another book in this video, and that is called The Other People. I am 30% of the way into The Other People by C.B. Everett, and this one is not quite what I expected it to be. It's just taking a little bit of a different approach tonally than maybe I thought that it would. The concept for this one is said to be Agatha Christie meets Shutter Island. It's said to be a high concept thriller, and it's about these 10 strangers who all wake up in this mansion. They have no memory of how they got there. They have no idea where they are, and they don't know one another. And then they have this really bizarre experience where they like come down for dinner. They each have their favorite meal laid out for them, and then this person comes running in telling them what's going on. They're also all wearing this like fitness tracker thing that it seems to be broken. But anyway, they get this whole story that there's a killer somewhere, and this killer keeps taking these women and girls and burying them alive, but he gives them like oxygen funneled through that lasts for 24 hours. And then he will give all his clues to the police and such to see if they can rescue them. But apparently what's going on right now is these 10 strangers are brought together, and there's a new missing girl, and they are only gonna have 12 hours to find her because 12 hours have already passed, I guess, with them getting to this mansion in their sleep. I don't really know. It's very strange. It feels like a nightmare. It's very strange. So they're being told they have to figure out where that girl is and who the killer is in 12 hours. And then their fitness watches start ticking down. So they have a countdown on their watch. And that's all they have to go off of. And then I guess the synopsis says that they're gonna start dying as well. So little Agatha Christie, you know, one by one, they're gonna keep dying as the clock is running down. All of that sounds interesting, but something about this book is just so intangible to me. First of all, I don't love stories that start with characters waking up with no memory of their circumstances, because that just doesn't make them feel like real people for some reason. I just don't love that trope. There's 10 of them. That's a lot of people to keep up with. They don't know each other. You're getting different perspectives. So far, we've only gotten on the perspective of like 3 of the characters. And this whole concept is so abstract. Like, there's a killer somewhere who's taken a girl and you have 12 hours to solve, but you have no clues to go off of. You have absolutely nothing. You're just in this house. Like, where do you even begin? You don't have a computer to do some research. You don't know anything about the girl. You have no basis to begin an investigation. So I'm feeling a little like stalled out. I'm like, where is this gonna go? I'm so confused how they're supposed to solve this. That doesn't make sense to me. So the whole thing just feels like a very bizarre nightmare where, you know, when you're having a nightmare and you're just kind of accepting all these bizarre truths and the dream's just taking you to all these different places. That's kind of what the characters are going through right now. And I'm like, no one wants to stop and ask a question about what's going on. This is very strange. And it's extra strange because there's a POV that you get interspersed throughout the chapters that's called The Beast in the Basement. And that is speaking to you, the reader, in second person. It's talking about them being the beast in the basement. I don't even know what that means. Is it a monster? Is it supernatural? Is it a real person? Is that the killer in the house? I have no idea, but they're making like all these observations and telling you these things about the characters as well. So I'm just feeling very confused. Everything's very unexpected right now. I'm not disliking the story. I'm just really reorienting myself to what my expectations are given what this book actually is. Very curious to keep going and see how my perspective shifts as the story continues. The closest thing I can think of that it's reminding me of is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton, which I do love that book, but a lot of people didn't. And I, at the time, was like, oh my God, I love this book. It's so fresh, so fun. I can't believe people dislike it so much, but people really dislike it. And I think all the things people dislike about that are kind of true in this book too. So I don't know how this one's gonna be. We're gonna see. I'm gonna keep going and I'll let you know. I am here once again with wet hair, getting ready to go to bed. But needed to talk about this book real quick. I got about 60% into it. I'm gonna be reading more before bed. This is either the worst book ever written or it's about to take a wild twist. It is getting weird. It's getting really weird. And I'm like, what is happening? What am I reading? It just doesn't make any sense. And it is either going to have to completely flip itself on its head, a la Stuart Turton style, or it's just going to end up being one of the worst books ever. So I'm hoping it does something interesting and does some kind of cool twist, because if not, yikes. And I'll explain more depending on how the ending goes. So like if it just is bad, I'll explain to you some of the things that make me think it's bad, but in case it's leading to some kind of twist, I won't spoil that. And then I also, if it does take a twist, I'm not going to spoil you on the nature of the twist because I know this book still isn't going to be out for a couple months. I don't want to spoil you on it, but I do need to like set your expectations for what you're getting because it's bizarre. I finished The Other People and I don't recommend this book at all. I am going to be giving it a 1 star. Honestly, maybe 0 stars. I do not like what this book did, and it was just not a good reading experience either. Like, even with what's revealed, and you know, regardless of how you feel about what the book is doing, it's just not a good book to read because of all of the things that like. It's just weird. It's just weird and it feels like a nightmare and not in a good way. and it's just not good, and I don't really appreciate what it did, and I didn't like it. And it's just so wild because the way this book was framed, I just thought, you know, classic murder mystery, it's gonna be a good time. There was a hint. There's something I could have, you know, figured out maybe if I had put my brain powers together. And I know I'm being vague, but I don't want to like fully spoil it because the book's not gonna be out for so long. But yeah, I mean, there's like nothing I can say to explain it that won't be a full spoiler. If you particularly find yourself sensitive to things and you want to shoot me a message on Instagram and ask about it and you're okay getting the spoilers, I will let you know there. I just don't want to spoil it for everyone before the book's even out, but whew, not a good time. So that puts a wrap on this reading vlog, and it did not go well, but that's kind of how thrillers have been for me this year, so I shouldn't be too terribly surprised. This is why I've been leaning even more into the mystery genre, because I've just been liking mysteries more than thrillers recently. Let me know down in the comments below if you've read any of these books, what you think about them, or if you still plan on picking them up. But that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!